Hello, hello, hello. It's Jesus Castillo from rubyguides.com. Welcome to a short live stream. So remember, these live streams are not just super structured, or we might talk about different things. So it's not only one topic. And if you're watching live, you can ask questions directly in the chat, and I will try to answer them. Now, I have a little announcement. Is that we just got accepted into the YouTube Partner Program. So that allows me to enable this thing called Super Chat. And with Super Chat, you can make a donation to the channel. And that way, and you can add a little message. So that supports the channel. That's one of the ways. Another way is you can buy my book at rubyguides.com. You scroll to the bottom and you will find my book. That's one way, and that's a preferred way. But another way you can support me is with these super chats, and you can also use that to ask me a question. I will give it priority if it came in through one of these super chats. Okay. So thanks for your support. Now, what do we have here? I prepared some code because I've been doing some learning about statistics. Okay, so what I like is having, when I'm learning something, I like having a way to check if what I'm doing is correct, right? If the values, so if I do, for example, a statistics exercise, I want to know if my solution is correct for a given exercise. So basically what I do here in this Ruby code that we're going to explore together in a short moment is build a solver of these statistics solution problems, right? So I can check if my solution is correct. Also, it allows me to check with my formulas. So I do a double check or triple check if I can. So I look up the correct answer and check if my program is producing the correct answer from different sources. So I might look up some statistics calculator online and check if my answers match up with these answers in this other side. Also, if I had a statistics book or a statistics ebook, a statistics course, statistics video, anything like that, I would check against that. I would check against different sources if my solution, my understanding is correct. And that's another way that I learn. And you might also try this not only for, of course, statistics or other science topics. You can use this for learning Ruby, learning programming and web development, because when you are double or triple checking your understanding, that really increases your confidence, because it makes sure that, okay, no, I really understand this. This really working. It helps cement or solidify this knowledge. So this works for any topic that you want. And the technique here is to understand the things from different sources and in different ways, right? So different sources, that's why it's important to read books and to watch videos and to test different ways and to use tools, combine different ways to really build this map of knowledge in your mind and build familiarity and all of that good things. Make connections, because learning, what is learning? Learning is just making connections, right? Basically, that's the basic idea. And the more material you have to make these connections, the better connections and the more connections you will be able to make. So in here, with that explained, in here I have, as you can see, a class. And you don't always have to have a class. A class is a convenient way for us to organize our code in a way that makes sense, because in a class we can combine methods. So that's what we do the different behaviors, different actions, commands, right? And we can combine that with data. In this case, I have data which I initialize. So this happens when I create the object here, right? And we have two sets of data, and that's two arrays. I call them X and N. In this case, this is what's called a frequency table. So these are the frequencies of this, right? So this could be anything. This could represent, like, for example, some polling or survey where we ask people, how many cats do you own? Okay, so you can own 0 cats, 1 cat, 2 cats, 3 cats, and 4 cats. That's the options. We could have more options, like instead of just 4, we could say 4 plus cats, more than 4, right? For this particular implementation, we are not going to take what's called a continuous variable. That can be a range, or can be like it has no definite value. So these are called, I believe, I'm still in the process of learning statistics, but I think I made a lot of progress. I think these are called determinate variables or something like that, and they have a fixed value, right? That's the point. There are also continuous variables where you have like a range, or you don't specifically know where you're at. You don't have a specific point like this, right? It's not 0, 2, 3, 4. It's like a range or things like that. So for this particular implementation, we work with this data, and these are the frequencies. So in this case of this survey, we could say that 6 people say they have 0 cats. 15 people say that they have 1 cat. So basically, that's what this data is. In a table, there are 2 ways to represent this. Some people call this N, some people call this F. Okay, I just choose N for this. And I store this as instance variables, right? So as you might know, when you have the @ symbol in front of the variable, we call this instance variables. What does that mean? Well, this is a local variable. A local variable is used inside the method. When you go outside the method, then the local variable it's gone. It loses its value. But when you use an instance variable, and that's the point of the instance variable, we can keep the value through all of the methods. We can share the value with all of the methods in the class. Okay, so that's the point of the instance variable, and you can differentiate it. You can tell it's an instance variable because it has the @ symbol. This another variable has 2 @ symbols. This is different. This is a class variable, and you want to avoid those if you can, because there is a lot going. It's more complicated. It doesn't really help you. Okay, so you want to avoid this with 2 @ symbols. That's it if you want to write good code. If you don't care about the quality of your code, then do whatever. I don't care. But if you want to write good code, I would recommend that you avoid the variables with 2 @ symbols. That's called a class variable. Also, you want to avoid the global variables. Okay, so instance variables are good if you're using them correctly, which is to define them within this initialize method. So this is kind of a special method in classes, which is called automatically when you create an object. How do you create an object in Ruby? Well, you create an object by calling new, right? Like this. Here we're creating a stats table object, and immediately I'm using it, right? With these two methods. So that's the first part. That's the class, that's the object, and that's instance variables. By the way, quick reminder, if you like this, click the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on these live streams, and very important is to enable the notifications, because if you don't enable notifications, you won't know when I go live. I don't have a specific schedule, although I try to go live around this time of the day. Okay, so okay, we covered that. Then I have a few more methods. Before we do that, let me quickly show you what the output looks like. So this is the output. You will see it's a table. How do I print this table? Well, I am using a gem. Why I use a gem? Well, because it saves me a lot of work. If I want to produce this kind of table with just puts statements, it's going to take a lot of work, because I have to account for how long each field is. I also have to add these spaces, and that means there's a lot of calculations you have to do for each field. So you have to calculate, okay, how many spaces I'm going to add, how long is this field, and all of that. Well, the gem does all of that for you, in this case for me, but you can also do this yourself. I think it's an interesting experiment, interesting project. Okay, and then I have some calculated values, and these names are in Spanish because that's how I'm learning statistics. And I don't want to get too confused with the names. So that's basically the average, that's the mode, and that's the median. So the names in English are also very similar, though. Standard deviation, variance. Right, so that's the values are calculated, and that's the table, that's the frequency table. Now, one thing I noticed, this percentage, it has too many numbers, has too many decimals. I don't need that level of precision. So how can we change this? Well, if I open IRB, you will notice that, if I open IRB, you will notice that if I have a decimal, let's say I have like pi 3, 15, 9, 6, 2, I think that's pi, math, pi, yeah, 59, 2, oh, hold on, 2, 6, okay, let's say we have this, or we can use the constant. So the good thing about the constant is that you won't have a typo there, because I have seen some places where they use pi as an example, and they have the number wrong. They have the wrong number, right? And maybe only one of the decimal numbers, hard to get 314 wrong, but they had the other numbers wrong. At least if you're going to have pi as an example in your book or whatever, or your video, try to have it correct. And you can use the constant for that. No, why do I bring this up? Because this is a decimal number, or more specifically in Ruby, this is a floating point number, right? And we allow me to demonstrate how we can remove decimal numbers. So basically we round up. We round to how many places? Well, let's say we want 5. So this means we get to keep 5 decimal places. Alright, so we can do this. You will notice that we round up. So when you use round, keep that in mind. So we can use this concept. So notice I came to IRB to test the concept, and I can come back to my code, find what I want to change, and apply that concept. So that's an important thing you can do. So where is this percentage calculated? Well, this percentage is in my print method. No. Hold on. Frequencies in my summary method. Okay, so we have here, no. Let me search for, so this is the person is frequencies. Okay, so frequencies is this method. So here is we want to do the precision change. So I think maybe here, let's try round 4. I'm just showing you how you can go about making a feature change, because not everything about adding new features, you're also updating or improving features like this. See? So interesting. Okay. How about, think I need the whole number. Not the biggest fan about parentheses, but I think they're necessary here. Let's try that. Okay, that works. There it is. We got our feature update. And now we only get 2 decimal points for percentage, which I think looks a bit more manageable. Okay. So there is our frequency table. There is our stats for that. How I'm doing this? Well, I'm using a lot of enumerable, as you can see. Here I'm using the map, the sum method. One thing you might want to notice is this 2f. What is 2f doing? Well, what happens if I remove 2f? Well, that's fine. I get everything to 0. Why? Because I am dividing whole numbers. So let me show you what I mean. If I have like 49 divided by 2, get 24, but that's not entirely correct. This is the correct value, but to get this, to get 0.5, we need to divide by a floating point number, by a decimal number. Okay, so this is how Ruby works, and probably many other programming languages. When you divide whole number by whole number, what you expect to get is another whole number, not a decimal number, right? An integer. In this case, we call these integers. And you can find out with the class method, right? We get Joseph F. You say, hey Jesus, thanks for the live video. Yeah, thanks for watching. By the way, Super Chat is now enabled. This is the first live stream with Super Chat enabled, and you can use that to support the channel, make a contribution to support the channel, so we can keep making more content like this. Okay, so that's integer. So if you want to get a float as a result, one of these two numbers need to be a float. You can just make a float by doing 0.0. That doesn't change the value. It's still 2, but it makes it into a float, right? And that's how I get a more precise, more accurate result. And that's how I get my percentages here. Okay. So any questions so far that we have? So we cover the gem that allows you to create nice tables like these ones. Yes, you might hear a cat in the background. Sorry about that. We cover class, we cover instance variables, we cover the initialize method. Okay, where do these values come from? Well, these come from here, when we create a new stats table object. And let me ask you something. Let me show you something interesting that I did here. Oops, I don't know what happened. Let me show you something interesting. You notice here this I'm doing dot print and then dot summary. Well, if you do this normally, you will get an error. Why? Can you tell why? Well, you get an error for one simple reason. When I do print, I'm printing something, but I'm calling summary on the result of print. So as a beginner, you might think, okay, when I call another method, I'm calling the method on here. But that's not how that works. I'm calling a method on whatever comes from the last thing. So whatever comes from print, that's where I'm calling the method. So it's like factory that has multiple steps, like think like a car factory. So first we make like the engine, and then we make like the chassis or whatever, or we make the steering wheel, and we keep making things, and every step there is something to the last step, and we assemble. It's like an assembly line. We assemble the parts. So you can kind of think like that if it helps. That's what happens here. So we have our class, then we call new, and this new is called on the stats table class, and this will result in an object. So at this point, where the cursor is blinking right now, we have an object. What kind of object? Well, we have a stats table object initialized with this data. Okay. Now, when we call something in here, another method, this is going to be on whatever is at this point, on the blinking cursor point. So we're going to print on the stats table object. And this will produce something. This will return some kind of value. So every method call, every time you're calling a method, this is a method call, this is a method call. So the dot something, that's a method call, this is a method call. This always returns some kind of value, right? Now, if I want to be able to call summary on the same thing we're calling print, that means the stats table object, I need to have that object at this point, at the blinking cursor point. And that's not the case normally, because print will return whatever print method does. So that can be a string, that can be an array, but that string is not this object. So how did I solve that? Well, I did something very interesting, which is instead of returning the string, I'm returning self. Ta-da! So when I return self, what happens? Well, I return the object. Which object? Well, the same object we had here, the states table object. So what that means at the practical level is this allows me to call another method, so I can chain methods on the same object. So that's a nice little trick that I wanted you to learn in case you need to do something like this. In fact, this is something called in the builder design pattern. Builder. So let me write that for you in case you want to build this, find this in Google or whatever. I have a video as well. about this design pattern. And that's the basic idea. We return self, which means we return a state table object, and that allows you to keep calling other methods. All of these methods, we can keep calling them as long as we have the object. So that's called the builder design pattern. That's where I got this idea from. And that's what allows me to do print. So that means print the table, this table, and then I print the summary data, the actual statistics that we can learn from this. Okay, so that's what that is. Any questions? We can use dependency injected to improve code reuse. Yeah, we can. It doesn't really matter in this case, but yes, that's a thing. Do we have any questions what's happening in here about what explain or anything related to Ruby? If not, then we are done for today. So 10 seconds. Five seconds. Never heard about terminal table? Very cool gem. Yes, it's a very cool gem. By the way, there is another similar gem. It's called not terminal table, but there is table print. So there is another gem called table print. You might, if you enjoy terminal table, you might also like this table print. I think it's written like that. And that's similar to terminal table. It does similar function. It just works a little differently. Okay, so you might want to look that up. Okay, so we are done for today's quick stream. I hope you enjoy it. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Enable notifications so you can get more videos like this. Oh, we have a quick question. Do you prefer buyback or pry? Well, both. So it depends. For the token, there is something that combines both. It's called pry buyback. So you don't actually have to choose between the two. If I'm doing just regular like REPL kind of things, then just IRB or pry we do. That's fine. If I'm doing debugging, then we can use this pry buyback gem, which is like a combination of both gems. So you cannot get the best of both worlds. But use what you find most helpful to you. Thanks, I appreciate the explanation of builder pattern. Yeah, you're welcome. Although that's not the full builder pattern. Full builder pattern will assume that you return self on every method but one of the methods, okay? Which is the ending method, which says, okay, I'm done with this object, and that's it. Okay, so that's it. Thanks a lot for watching. Make sure to watch other videos on the channel if you want to keep learning, and visit my website, rubyguides.com. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.